Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Beached Whale Podcast, where we're just going to talk about things for your enjoyment.
What's up, guys? My name is Nolan.
My name's Nash.
And today we're going to be talking about some past job experiences that we have. So, Nash, do you want to start us off here?
Absolutely. So, when I started working, I didn't know exactly what I was going to do. So, the most logical thing I could think of was, why not work at a hotel?
How old were you?
I was actually, at the time I was probably 16, 17. And I decided that this job was going to be the job to end all jobs. When I walked into that hotel, I thought, man, if this isn't the best job I've ever had, I can get cookies when I want. I can go sleep in rooms if I wanted to. Why not? Well, turns out it wasn't the best experience in the world. So when I worked there, when I had turned 16, I worked as a night shift person. So my shift was from 11 p.m. to 8 in the morning.
It's 9 hours. Did you get a break?
Basically, the job was my break. Because I spent so long doing nothing. Because, nobody's going to check into a hotel at 4 o'clock in the morning. Unless they're hammered or an idiot. But that was just my opinion.
How often did that happen? Someone come in?
It would happen very rarely. Most of the time, what would happen was the latest somebody would check in was probably 2 a.m. And that, like I said, it was either somebody who was hammered drunk or a college student who got kicked out of their house. Because we are in a campus town, and it would happen a lot more than you think it would.
Really?
Oh, absolutely. People would, get hammered. Their roommates would get mad at them, and they would say, get out of the house. Get out of the house. You're an idiot. And then they would show up, still drunk, and drove.
Oh my God.
That's the worst part. I always knew that they had driven there. Because I saw the car pull up. It was a little sideways when it came up to the doors of the hotel. But needless to say, it all worked out. I got them checked into a hotel, and they would always be like, you know what, man? You're the best dude I ever met. And I would be like, yes, I know. It's my job to be here. And they'd be like, yeah, where's the elevator? Well, I would tell them for the 13th time where the elevator was. They didn't hear me because they were either blackout or just in a new place that I've never really seen. I'd like to call it the dark zone. It's when someone drinks so much that they have no idea where they even are. And that would happen a lot of the time. So, speaking to that, I have a few stories including drunk people, because that's a lot of what we had, especially during game time.
Mm-hmm.
So, in our town, we have a lot of football games, because we're a college town, and we're a really well-known place. So, the biggest problem with those football games is people would go and get drunk. And they would come to the hotel. So going on with the story, I know I went on a bit of a tangent, but going on with this, one day, I'm 17 years old. I'm still working at the hotel. Still working the late shift. A lady comes in, can't even stand up. Can't even stand up. She's holding the wall for support as she's trying to talk to me. And she's talking to me in this voice that I've never experienced since. She was an older lady, but she was talking to me like this. She was like, honey, can I get a room? And I was like, well, of course you can. And she says, okay, honey. Can I pay with cash? Needless to say, she talked like a 70-year-old witch in a Lord of the Rings movie. It blew my mind what this lady was. I don't even know what she was. She might have been a witch for all I know. So I said, okay, no, you can't pay with cash. We're
Really?
a card-only hotel because the hotel had a lot of fraud.
Oh, okay.
So we had to have a credit card on file and an ID. Fair. And she said, well, that just won't do. All I have is cash. And I said, well, that's very unfortunate, but I really cannot help you at this moment because we don't take cash. Might I mention, this is about 3 a.m. So I'm tired. So, I'm exhausted. I don't have time to deal with Witch Lady.
Well, you got 5 more hours on your shift.
Well, I mean, I did, but at the same time, I did not have time to deal with Crazy Witch Lady. And all of a sudden, she leans over the counter as close as she can and goes, don't worry. I know Bob.
Who's Bob?
I didn't know. And I said, okay, who's Bob, first off? And she goes, well, he's the one who used to run this hotel. I said, okay, fair. Who's Bob? Because as long as I've worked there, I knew the owners, and they were not named Bob. I didn't know who Bob was. So we're sitting there, and we're just having this conversation back and forth. I know Bob. I don't know who Bob is. Well, Bob would let me. I don't know who Bob is. Well, Bob knows me. Again, who's Bob? I had to ask the question, who's Bob, about 14 times. Seeing as how I wasn't getting to her, I finally said, ma'am, I cannot help you. Can you please just turn around and leave? I said, we cannot help you. You do not have a card. Please leave. And she turns to me with the wickedest grin on her face and goes, oh, but I can't leave. Which scared the hell out of me. Scared the hell out of me. Because, when you're having a conversation with a person and they turn to you and, in your face go, I can't do that. It's going to scare the hell out of you. And I said, why can't you leave? And she said, well, my car ran out of gas, so that's why I'm here. I said, ma'am, the gas station from here is about maybe less than a mile. There was a 7-Eleven down from the hotel. She could have walked. And she then asks me, well, since I'm not getting any help here, can you pay me for my gas?
Oh my god.
At this point, I'm done. I'm done. I turn to her and I say, ma'am, I don't know what you are on, or who you are, or who Bob is. But I've had enough of this conversation. She stopped, looked me dead in the eyes, and said, well, okay then. Turned around and walked off.
Huh.
To this day, I will never know the answer to 2 questions in life.
Who is Bob?
That's number 1. But number 2 is, where did she go? Because she turned around and walked out those hotel doors and just walked into the night. No car, nothing. So yeah.
Do you think she was homeless?
I don't know. I mean, she said she had cash on her.
Uh-huh.
So I assume that she wasn't. And she wasn't she was very clean.
Mm-hmm.
She was very strangely clean for what she looked like she was on.
Uh-huh.
I don't know. I don't think she was homeless.
She was probably just on some good stuff.
She was. She was on good enough stuff to know Bob. So, that's my first story. I'm going to pass it over to Nolan now for another great work story.
Well, my first job was I worked at Cracker Barrel. When I just turned 16, I was looking for a job, and my friend Ryan had worked at Cracker Barrel. Ooh, should I cover his name?
Probably.
My friend Iron worked at the local Cracker Barrel, and he was the server there. And he told me about how much money he made, and that's something that sounded great to me. I mean, I didn't want to work that much, but I wanted money for, I don't know, girls, games, Minecraft, stuff like that. I was big on making Minecraft videos, and so I could buy channel art and a new intro every week.
The necessities.
Yeah, so I applied, and I got the position. I started working in May, just after school ended. So it was a couple months after I turned 16. And yeah, I mean, you have to go through a lot of like online training. So you're sitting on the computer for hours and hours, dude.
Oh, God.
Yeah, and like
we're going to be sitting here editing this video later.
Knock, knock, knock. But, no, but, so you do a lot of training, and some of it's not even relevant to you. Like, you have to do, like, the host training and, like, a little bit of the grill cook. But you have to learn how to, like, make salads, which was relevant, because we never had a salad maker or dessert maker. So you had to make that.
Right.
Yeah. So, Cracker Barrel, God, it was weird, because it's not the most expensive restaurant if you've never been. It's kind of like a 3-star restaurant, I would say. So it's not very pricey. The food is okay, depending on who you ask. Some people love it. But their big thing is that they want to get people in and out of there as fast as they can. Because the ticket prices are low-ish. And so they got to turn people over. And so that was everything, you got that drilled into you. It was company policy to get people in and out of there. So it was a 14-minute seat-to-eat experience. So from 14 minutes of when they get sat at their table, they need to have their food on their table.
I will let you know that every eating experience I've ever had has been a 14-minute.
Really?
Oh, yes.
14-minute seat to eat?
Oh, yeah. If I don't get a 14-minute seat to eat, I get hungry and I get mad.
No, but so they wanted, anytime you got your table sat, they wanted the first time you went up to them for you to get their order. Which doesn't always happen because lots of people have never been there before, and they need time to look at the menu.
Absolutely.
And they would want you to go there right away and get their order right away. And so they would advise you to script and tell the people what they wanted. But, 98% of the time they need an extra minute. And so whenever it would be busy, Cracker Barrel, it's big with the religious folks. They love to come after church on Sunday or before church. So Sunday mornings were hell. It was like the wait would get up to like 45 minutes. Every table would be packed, in and out. Your table leaves, before you can even blink, you have new customers sitting there. So you'd have like 3 or 4 tables. If you're new, you'd only have like 2 tables. But on days like those, when we were super busy, if you had new customers and you went out, asked them what they wanted to drink, got their drink order, they still needed a minute on the food, you go back in and the managers would be yelling at you. Specifically the general manager. We'll call her Ellen. Her name was not Ellen, but she would get so mad. She'd be like, "Why did you have their order? They need a damn minute. What am I supposed to do? Just stand there and wait as you're deciding on your food? I'm just looking over you as you're looking at the menus. No pressure, guys. Just hurry up, please."
That always makes me very uncomfortable when a waiter does that. I'm kind of like, "Can I get a minute?" And they're like, "Yes, absolutely." And they stand there and like stare at me, and I'm like, "Listen, Linda, I'm just trying to get some pancakes. If you can back up for a second, I can order them."
Yeah, and it was, oh my God. And it's like you're trying to get the best tip too, right? Because Cracker Barrel is paying me $2.10 an hour, which is nothing, and you never saw that on your paychecks because all of that would come out for taxes. So, you're relying on these tips, and what are you supposed to do? Pressure people? Oh, you know what you want? You want the mama's pancake breakfast. You want your eggs scrambled. I'm not even going to ask you. Just going to bring food out to you. And then breakfast was the worst, because Cracker Barrel serves both breakfast and dinner. It's mostly a breakfast place, but people, Oh my God, people are so needy on how they want their bacon done. And most people want it extra crispy. And so you go in, you put it in on the computer, you put extra, extra, extra crisp. There's an extra button and a crisp button. Press that damn extra button like 7 times. And sometimes the cook would barely make it crispy. And so sometimes you'd ask right away, but then you'd have a manager pushing you to just go ahead and take the food out. You take the food out, and like, I swear to God, like 6 times out of 10, you would present someone their food, put it down on the table, and be like, this bacon isn't good enough. I asked for this extra crispy. And it's like, well, I did what I tried. But I never said that, but I'd be like, oh, okay, I'm so sorry. I'll get that fixed for you. Sometimes they put it on a little plate or just take the whole plate back. And then the cooks would get mad at you. I'd be like, why didn't you put it in the thing? I did. I pressed extra 3 damn times. And so by the time I had worked there for a while, I would put extra crisp, extra crisp, extra crisp, extra crisp like 8 times. So they would know what's up. But you'd have to go back, give them bacon back. They put it back on the grill. I don't think you're supposed to do that, like sanitary wise. Once it's been out of the kitchen, I don't think it's supposed to go back on. It still happened. So people were obsessed with that. Yeah, people would just, God, they acted like it was a 5-star restaurant where they were paying so much money to be there. But the stuff really wasn't that pricey. Everything had to be perfect, though, for a lot of people, especially older folks. And that's who mostly came into Cracker Barrel. Because younger people are generally a lot nicer to people in customer service, at least in my experience.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, that's mostly what it was hell. Especially when it got busy, it was so bad, dude. I don't know. I'll try to think of some other stories. Do you have any more stories, Nash?
My life is full of stories. So, moving on, it's about a year later. I had exited the hotel, and I was now currently working at a place. It was a car wash. So, the best part about the car wash was the fact that you could get your car cleaned for $5 if you worked there.
$5? Not even for free?
No, it wasn't free.
Wow.
It was $5 for each car wash. The problem was I would never go get my car washed there because I knew who worked there. And I knew that it was going to be bad. Trust me, I loved some of the people that worked there. Just because, I mean, I worked there with a lot of my friends. And I thought they were great. But when my friends weren't there, that was the biggest problem. So, while I was working there, I ran into a man. I don't know what to call him. I'll just call him Bubba. He was one of the workers. And the thing about Bubba was that every time that he told a story, it was something you didn't want to hear.
Mm-hmm.
It was something about his life that was going on that you did not, and I repeat, did not want to hear.
Like TMI?
Very much TMI.
Oh, no.
I won't go into the details.
No, go into the details.
I specifically cannot. It was too gross most of the time to even, like, experience just a retelling of what he said. But one story in particular really stood out to me. So one day we're standing there, and he's talking about his girlfriend. His girlfriend was, shall we say, a stripper type.
Stripper type? What does that mean?
And by stripper type, I mean she was probably a stripper.
Oh.
While a very respectable profession. I mean, heck, they make more money than we probably do. So
I don't make nothing, bro.
Exactly. We don't make anything. So it works out in the end. They're making way more money than we are. I respect that profession. But Hers was the kind of, like, strip club on a Tuesday in the morning. If that makes sense.
Uh-huh.
She wasn't the Friday night crowd pleaser. So one day, he's talking about her, and he says, "Yeah, guess what?" I said, "Oh yes, Bubba. Please tell me one of your wonderful anecdotes about your life." He goes, "Guess what? My girlfriend's husband." I thought, wait a second. Wait a minute. Let me stop you right there. Your girlfriend's husband? He said, "Yeah. He's over there. He's fighting overseas."
Oh,
I
no.
said, "Hold on, what?" He's like, "Yep. He's one of them Air Force soldiers." I thought, well, that's strike two. I need to know where this is heading. So we get into this conversation about his girlfriend's husband, which to this day has floored me. We get into this conversation, and he says the wise words that I have never heard a man say ever. He said, and I quote, "Man, having a girlfriend with a husband in the Army's the best." I said, "Why is that, Bubba?" He said, "Well, because he's the one making the money, and you're just sitting back taking it."
Oh, my God.
Which was strike three for me, in my opinion. I thought that was just the worst part of it all. I mean, this guy's overseas fighting for his country, and you're sitting over there taking his money and his wife. And he said, "Yep." And this is the part that I've always remembered. He said, "Yep. He's buying me cigarettes and I'm having sex with his wife."
Oh, no. Switch to Jewel.
We're not even going to have that conversation. I don't want to get into that. He had many, many stories before he got fired. Which I might add was for yelling at a customer. But that's for another time. Out of all the things that he ever said, the thing that has stuck with me the most is that sentence. He's buying me cigarettes, and I'm having sex with his wife. Never have I heard something so endearing, yet so disgusting at the same time. It was almost profound, in a way. Like, trash chic, if you will. I don't know. It's just, it's really stuck with me. It really has. Well, while I get that image out of my brain, you want to go ahead and tell another story?
Oh, yeah. So, here's another one from The Barrel. So, in summer of 2018, I first got my driver's license. And I was kind of a late bloomer, especially with the driving thing. I didn't have a car for the longest time. But when summer was rolling around, the manager who did the schedule, he was like, "All right, everyone turn in your availability," or at least school kids. Let us know when you can work. And I put every day from open to close. So 5:30, which was opening, until like 11 p.m., 12 on the weekends. And, well, I realized that was a mistake because I then got scheduled almost every day, 5 days a week, for 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. And I didn't realize it was going to be as bad as I thought. Because first you have to get up super early. And I would get up every morning. Oh, man, it was painful. Because I'm, like, naturally a night owl, right? So I'm not a huge fan of the mornings. I would get up, shower, and then I would drive to work. I would listen to Good Morning by Kanye West every single morning. It was the best thing, watching the sunrise, listening to that song. But then you get there, and I swear, maybe 5 people would come in to eat from 6 to 8. We had a little bit of a rush some days from like 8 to 10, and then we would have a lunch rush every day. But, oh my God, it was not worth being there. And the weirdest thing was that almost every day, I opened with an older lady. She was like 65 probably. And we'll call her Beyonce. It's the first name that came to mind, right?
It
And so, she wasn't black though. She was white. So, Beyonce that was like I don't know, because I had some friends who worked there, right? I got close with people, especially other kids who were in high school, some who were in college, and I generally loved working with them. But this was somebody who I could not relate to at all. Like, born several generations before me, we weren't into any of the same things. She lived out in the middle of nowhere, out in the sticks. Like, her life was just so much different than mine. And we really did not cross paths on much. So every morning from 6 until 7, until someone else came in, it was the most awkward thing ever. And the person who came in at 7, we'll call her Pam, right? So Pam would come in at 7 and kind of like break the ice, make it a little less awkward, because Pam and Beyonce, they were like close. They've been working together for a long time. And I'm just this 16-year-old kid. Well, I guess I was 17 at the time. But I'm a 17-year-old kid working with two, like a 65-year-old and like a 50-year-old. And it was the weirdest thing ever, dude. And it was so awkward because we wouldn't really have customers to distract us, right? And then someone does come in and we would have to split it. So we would each take every other customer. And genuinely, I felt bad most of the time. Like I didn't want to like take like whenever a 4-top would come in, a group of 4 people, I wouldn't want to take that over her. Like she probably needs this money more than I do.
Right.
But like at the same time, like we both got to make it worth it to even be there that early. And it didn't, she could have easily like had the restaurant to herself until like 8 a.m. And she probably should have, because they didn't need to pay me to be there, right? But it was just, every morning was so awkward. Being in an awkward situation where you're with someone that you don't really know well. But I think one of my best memories with her was getting in there, talking to her, and she was like, I think we're going to be busy today. And I was like, oh, how come? And this was when the Pride Festival was going on, Gay Pride Festival. And she goes, well, the gay people are doing the gay thing today, so probably have some gay people come in.
Oh my God.
And I was like, the gay people thing? What does that mean? She's like, like the gay pride thing. They're really happy about being gay.
At least she has a positive outlook on it. At least she wasn't mad about it. That's the good part of the story, I guess.
But yeah, really no gay people came in. No gay people doing the gay thing. But it wasn't really any busier than normal. It was nice though, because some days we would work with the scheduling manager. We'll call him Ian. Ian was really cool. He was like 40 something. And he was super nice, but normally he would just be like chilling in his office. Like he didn't want anything to do with us. But whenever we had the general manager, oh my God, this older lady, about to retire, right? She'd been working at Cracker Barrel since she was in like her 20s. Started working at Cracker Barrel whenever she was in college as a grill cook. And she went to college to become a nurse. She became a certified nurse, started nursing, and then like less than a year into it, Cracker Barrel came back to her and was like, hey, do you want to be a manager at one of our stores? And offered her a bigger paycheck than what she got nursing. So she ditched the nursing thing and worked at Cracker Barrel for the next like 40 years. And sometimes we'd have like the district manager come in, right? Mm-hmm. And this one day they were coming in and she was the manager on duty, and she just had me like shine like all the fridges and stuff. You have to get the stuff and like do it in like circular patterns to try to shine it all. And she was wanting me to do this while I had other work to do, while like serving tables. And she was getting mad that I wasn't getting it done fast enough. Although I didn't have that many customers, like I still had other stuff to do. And that was the worst thing. She would just yell at you. when we were busy, she was the one yelling at you that you didn't get their order the first time. You went up to them. When we were dead, she was yelling at you because you've never cleaned a fridge before. You've never shined a fridge before. I had no idea what I was doing, dude. She just like handed me the stuff. And I was like, okay. So like I read the directions. I was like, you need to do it in a squirrely pattern, right? And, oh man, it was not fun. But yeah, gay people doing the gay thing. One of my top memories from that place. We had some cool managers, though. Some of them were cool. But all the cool ones, like, ended up leaving. And so, we're left with duds. We're left with doughboys.
Good point. You know, I at least think that, like, gay people doing the gay thing is definitely not, like, a bad connotated thing.
Could have been a lot more offensive.
It could have been very offensive, but she was trying her best to make it not be offensive, and I applaud her for that. What a wonderful old lady.
She wasn't bad by any means.
Oh, absolutely not. It doesn't sound like it.
Yeah. And especially when, like, she lived in a small town her entire life. So I don't think, you know, probably not the most gay positive place, but...
But she did at least try to fix that image.
Yeah.
Which is nice.
Yeah.
I'm guessing it's my turn for another story.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely. Well, after the car wash, let's jump forward, I'd say 5 months. I was 18 at the time. Almost 19. And I was still working at the car wash at the time, but I got an offer. One I couldn't refuse, as some would say. The hotel called me back, and they said, "Hey Nash, we just had an opening. Do you want to be a manager?" I thought, well, me being 18, almost 19, I'm definitely prepared to be a hotel manager. I was wrong. I was not prepared whatsoever. But I made do. I had to get money done. I had to make sure... Yes, get money done. And by getting money done, I mean, like, actually get the money done.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we got some small currency on the side because we did have a marketplace in the front of our hotel where people could buy, like, you know, Sprites, Dr. Peppers, stuff like that. And...
Kool-Aid.
Well, yeah. I think we did have some Kool-Aid, but yeah, not a lot. I think it was only like a few packets of it. We were never really on stock when it came to that thing because we never really knew how to run a hotel marketplace. But I digress. So, being the manager of the hotel was both a blessing and a curse because at the same time, when I had angry customers, they'd always ask for the manager. Well, I was standing right there, and I was the only one there because when the hotel did scheduling, you were the only one working for an 8 to 12 hour shift.
Oh my god.
So it was just you there.
Is this hotel hiring, by the way? I need
It's
a job.
not. Dang. Sorry. They've got a lot going on.
I wanted to meet Bob.
I wish you could meet Bob. I wish you could tell me where he is. So, being the manager, like I said, it's a blessing and a curse. Because when people get really upset with you and they're like, "I want to speak to the manager," then you can just do kind of like a semicircle, do the finger guns at him and go, "I'm the manager, what's up?" Because it was always something that you did that made them mad. Whether the fact that, like, you had no rooms left in the hotel, which was a big one. Because our hotel was very, very popular in the area. It wasn't a very, like, high-quality hotel, so it wasn't, like, a super 5-star amazing hotel. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, it wasn't a cockroach bucket, like, 1-star hotel.
Mm-hmm.
So we were very fortunate to have a lot of people stay with us. But one day, to this day, I can't tell what this lady was mad about. And I don't understand why her husband was okay with it. I'll talk about this in a second. So, this couple come in, and they seem to be all smiles. And I tell them, I say, okay, this is going to be the room amount, blah, blah, blah. This is what's going on, and this is what our big things going on around Norman are. And she was like, oh, that's awesome. And I said, so, what kind of room would you like? And he says, 2 kings, please. And she kind of just looks back at him, and she goes, actually, you know what? 2 kings, please. I was not prepared for this situation. In none of my training manuals did it mention couples starting to have a fight in the hotel lobby. So, things escalate quickly. They're screaming at each other in the front, and they're just yelling at each other. I'm like, hey guys, I need a credit card. And they're like, you just wait a minute. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. So they're yelling at each other. Whatever. I'm like, I don't know what to do. I cannot solve this situation. So they finally calm down. Everything's fine. It's all quiet. Yay! They give me their credit card. They go up to the room. They're fine. About 2 hours later, I hear bumping. They were in a first floor room. And I heard bumping, and I thought, oh no, they're right above me, and they're doing it. I hope this isn't like a husband overseas kind of thing. But it was not.
Did you hear moans?
I did not, actually. That was the weird thing. So I heard a door slam, and I thought, oh, it must be them. So in our hotel, we have like a camera system in the hallways, because we have to have that camera system just in case anything happens in the hallway and we need to call the police and tell them about what happened, show them the footage, whatever. So I go back and take a look at the camera system. I know kind of the general area of where their room is. I had been working there for about 7 months at that point. And I look in the camera and I see the guy outside the door, just kind of like knocking on the door, and he had this like kind of impatient look on his face, but he wasn't too angry. And I thought, well, maybe I should figure out what's going on. So about 3 minutes later, as I'm watching this unfold on the camera, I see the door fling open. I see something that I, to this day, will never forget.
Boobies.
Not boobies.
I'm sorry.
You're fine. But it was a sea of tampons.
Oh.
This woman was throwing tampons at this man. And I'm not talking just like a few tampons. I'm talking this lady had the box, and she was using them as ammunition, just pelting this guy over and over again with tampons. Like she was the javelin thrower, like gold winner of the Olympics in throwing tampons. And I thought, good for you, lady. Good for you. Throwing your tampons at him. Go you. All of a sudden, the door swings back open. And it looked like she just dumped the box on him at this point. Because there was a sea. Like Moses parted the Red Seas, and all of a sudden there were tampons on either side of him. Like, this was how many tampons were being thrown at this man. And I thought, well, great. Now I gotta go pick up all these tampons out of the hallway. Because we can't have a bunch of tampons just sitting on the ground. That's not a good look, is it? No, it's not. Especially not on my part when somebody comes down and goes, hey, you guys have a problem? There's a bunch of tampons on the first floor. So I had to go clean it up.
Could house service not do it?
There's no... This is... I forgot to mention, but this is about 10 o'clock. So house service is gone.
Oh.
House service leaves at 5.
Uh-huh.
So after that, whoever's working, they're the ones who are cleaning up the mess. I mean, it's fine because we didn't have many messes, but now I have a sea of tampons on my hands. Not on my hands, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So I go upstairs and I'm helping this guy pick up all the tampons that this woman has just thrown at him. And I never thought I would say tampons this much in my entire life, but here we are. So I'm helping this man pick up his tampons and he goes, yeah, so what she's mad about is when we were on the way here, we're heading to a wedding, might I add. He said, we're heading to a wedding, and we were eating a sandwich. He goes, and we got into a minor argument. He didn't tell me about what. He said, but she ended up throwing my sandwich out the window. I said, well, that just doesn't sound very nice. I'm sorry, man. And he goes, you know what? It's fine. He was like, she got hers. She went to eat her sandwich and got mustard all over her dress. I said, oh no. He said, and she said it was my fault. I'm not going to get into it at this point. So I just said, you know what? Whatever. And after that, I knocked on the door. I handed the lady her tampons back. She was very nice to me. Not so nice to him. So he came down with me. We got him another room. They were fine the next day. They came down to the lobby holding hands and everything was okay. Tampons had not been thrown that morning. Everything was fine. Working at that hotel just gave me an unbelievable amount of stories. And I have one more after this, after your next one, which is probably the pinnacle of my hotel existence. So I will let you go ahead.
All right, man. I wish I had as many good stories as you, but I do have another one from the barrel. So, at Cracker Barrel, there was a few kids from the same high school as me who worked there, right? And one of them was this girl, Jessie. Now, I'd never met her before, but I knew a lot about her. She was like a popular girl. And I found out that like she worked there and I didn't even realize it. And she was a hostess and I was a server. And this one day we like ran into each other. And I was like, oh, hey, you're Jessie, right? I mean, it said it on her apron. And she was like, yeah. And I was like, well, I'm Nolan. It's nice to meet you. Never seen you before, right? So first interaction.
Wonderful conversation.
Right. I thought she was pretty cool. Well, we didn't get to talk. She left. Anywho, a couple months later, me and her were dating. A couple months later, me and her were not dating anymore. And we still worked together. And I remember, whenever we broke up, I told a few people that I was close to, who worked there about it. But she decided to tell everyone. And try to blame everything on me. Any issue we had in the relationship was my fault. You know, the reason we broke up was me. Everything was me. Like, she didn't acknowledge at all that she might have done some things wrong. And she was kind of crazy. That's why we broke up. She broke up with me, though. But she was crazy the whole time. And so now we're in a situation where we're working together. Crazy girl, ex-boyfriend, working at the same place. And so the rumors started spreading, and like everyone was like talking about it. And eventually I got pulled in to the manager's office, and the general manager was like, you know, coworkers should never really date and all. And you know what she told me too? I just remember this part. She goes, boys your age, you shouldn't worry about girlfriends. You shouldn't worry about dating. You should just mess around with girls and have fun. And this is a 60-year-old something woman telling me not to be in a relationship, but to, quote, just mess around and have fun. Which is kind of the opposite of what I expected to hear. But, you know, it does make sense. You probably shouldn't date coworkers. I understand that now.
But the messing around part, that's not That's not correct. That's not what should happen.
I know. And she like, I don't know. It sounded sort of disrespectful to like, to women.
Right.
To hear that come from her. But anywho, so she was like, I just don't want to hear about this anymore. I was like, okay, I'm sorry. I just like took the blame for it. I wasn't there to sit around and talk to my general manager about my relationships, you know, as a 17-year-old. But then we continued to work together, and she just had to make it the worst thing ever. She would come in, very rarely she would like come back into the kitchen because she was normally out hosting. But I remember this one time she came in and she just stared at me. She was standing in one spot and just giving me the death stare. And I was walking around.
That sounds like the recipe for throwing tampons.
I know, I should have threw salad at her.
There we go.
I was making a salad. I came out from around there. I was walking. I went to like talk to someone, and I was going to walk out, and the entire time she's just staring at me. And I like briefly looked over at her for a second, and then looked away. And I could still tell. Like I could see it, you know, in the side of my vision.
You could feel it.
I could feel it, dude. She was crazy. And she would do the same thing. She would stand, she was really short, so she would stand like on the fireplace. You know, they had some like bricks like built up.
Yes.
Like a little stand. So she would stand up there and like look for tables, right? Doing her job, seeing what tables are filled and whatnot. And I would just be out and about doing my thing, and she would just stare at me. And I wonder if she said anything to customers ever. Like if she ever sat them at my table, like, you're gonna hate him. But thankfully, whenever she worked, there was other hostess, so like I never got screwed. Like she wasn't just there by herself.
Right.
And like never gave me tables. But God, and then I would have friends come. So I'd have my friend, we'll call her Jennifer, right? Me and her were like best friends. And she would come to eat. Her and her family would come to eat sometimes. And every time she would come to eat, Jessie would just stare at her. Jennifer didn't do anything. She was my friend. I mean, Jessie was sus about me and her, you know, because we were friends while we were dating. And so she thought there was more going on than just friendship. But, like, me and her never even liked each other. It was dumb. But she would stare at her, too. And she tried to get, like, everyone, especially all the other hosts, she tried to get them all to hate me. And so it didn't take long before they were all, like, giving me dirty looks. And I had no idea, like, what she even said, because I never did anything bad to her. Really. We just had a relationship that didn't work out. Because she was crazy. Mostly. But, yeah, I don't know. It was really weird. It was a really toxic relationship. And then to have that come into work after the relationship really sucked. But
right.
She quit way before I did. It was a big relief. It was much more enjoyable to work there. Thankfully, she didn't work that often. But it caused a lot of drama in work I didn't need. When I already had... It was already stressful enough. Like, that's a very stressful job, serving tables. You have all these customers you always got to be thinking about. You got to think... You, like, mentally, like, have to think about every table you have and what status they're at. You got to think about every member at every table. Does guy at table 3 need a Coke? When's he going to need a Coke? Because you don't want to bring him out a Coke when he's only 1/4 of the way done. Because he's going to be overwhelmed. But you also don't want him to wait 5 minutes and have no Coke. You know, you got to have like a mental picture of what everyone's doing. How far they are eating, when you need to drop off the ticket, what you need to say at the right time. And then to just stack that on with crazy girls staring at me while I'm trying to work. It's not a good time. Did you ever like work at a job like that? Like food or anything? You didn't, did you?
I never had a food job. I was always in the kinds of jobs that were very customer service based.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of doing food and stuff like that, I was always in like the opposite kind of job. It would always be like a hotel or like a car wash or something that wasn't food but was working with people in some way. So I definitely agree with you. I mean, more people in customer service jobs need to get recognition because they do not get the kind of recognition they deserve for working with crazy people all day long.
I think everyone should work customer service, at least for like a year, so you understand what it's like.
Right, and I think sometimes people don't have that idea, whether they had a good job starting off or something like that. They don't understand that these people are working so hard for their livelihood. I mean, this is their job, and their job is to help you out. Their job isn't to serve you. This isn't like a...
Well, my job was.
Well, I mean, granted,
Yeah.
their job isn't to... It's to... I wouldn't say serve. It's to help you get what you want.
Mm-hmm.
It's not for them to come in, be as rude as possible to you because you're there, and just step all over you. That's what people need to start realizing about customer service jobs. I mean, we don't do it so we can bow to your every whim. We do it so we can help the people with what they want while being treated with the respect that we deserve.
Mostly just to get a paycheck.
Well, that's some jobs, correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. That's a big part of it.
Absolutely. So I'd say that I'm going to finish out this podcast with one last story. And this is the story that I call Just Desserts. So, I'm nearing the end of my hotel stay. I know it's coming. I know I'm going to put my 2 weeks in. I just needed to find something else. The pay wasn't enough for what I was dealing with. Granted, the hotel was a great job. I didn't have any huge problems with it other than the pay itself. Just being a manager and having that kind of responsibility and being, as I said, I'm 19 years old at this point. I had no idea how to manage a hotel. I was way above my head. So, I'm nearing the end, and I get a phone call. It's a phone call that I will never forget. And I know I say that I will never forget these things, which is why I can say that I have these great stories. Because I never forget these situations, and that's how I can, give the mental picture to anybody who's actually listening. What actually happened? So I'll call this lady Broomhilda.
What's that from?
I have no idea. But this lady was, in a lack of a better term, batshit. This lady was crazy. So she calls, and might I add, the hotel was full. We had an oil drilling team that was coming to stay with us. So we needed 36 rooms out of the 72 we had.
Oh my god.
We needed 36 rooms for this oil crew. Might I add, the oil crew were amazing people. They came in, they always thanked you for their services. Oil people are great. I like them. They're nice. At least from my experience. I don't know if anybody has any premonitions against oil people, but I don't. I like them. So this lady calls and says, "Hi there. I need you to extend my husband's stay another 3 months." And I thought, oh no. I know who these people are. So they had kind of an urban legend going around at the hotel that there was a man staying in room number 104. And it wasn't an urban legend. This man was there.
Like, he lived there?
Yes. He basically lived there. And what had happened was, we had never seen him. There was somebody around the clock at all times at that hotel, but nobody had ever seen anybody come out or go into room 104. But it was always booked up. Come to find out, this man had just been sitting in there for about 5 months now.
How do you not go insane?
And I guess he just had food ordered. He didn't go out. He just watched TV. He didn't do anything. That was his life.
Hotel life.
It was hotel life, basically. It was the sweet life of Zach and Cody if they were locked in their rooms all day. So she calls and says, I need you to extend his room another 3 months. I said, well, ma'am, here's the problem. I actually cannot do that. Since you've called so last minute, we actually have that room booked up starting tomorrow. Because, might I add, his stay was ending the next day. Mm-hmm. So she called basically the day before his stay was supposed to end and tried to book another 3 months.
Good Lord.
And I said, well, I apologize, ma'am, but at the same time, we cannot extend that stay beyond today because we have booked that room and we need it cleaned and ready when we have people coming in. And she said to me, well, and she kept doing this like, just kept doing it like 5 or 6 times. And I said, ma'am, are you okay? I shouldn't have asked. She said, I can't believe you're throwing my husband out into the cold. It's the middle of July. It is the middle of July.
If he can afford to stay there for 5 months in a row, can he afford to go to another hotel for a couple nights?
Well, see, and this is the thing. I was about to recommend them. I said, well, after she finished her, you're throwing my husband out into the cold. After she finished that, I told her, I said, no, ma'am, we're not. We can hook you up with a different hotel. We have another sister location over up down the street.
Yeah.
So we have a second hotel that these people can go to that are just us. Mm-hmm. Same prices, same kinds of rooms, everything. It's just down the street. So I tell her that. You dare expect me to move my husband out into the cold and drive our car down the street? Yes, that is exactly what I'm asking you to do because we do not have the room available. She said, all right then. I hope you like being on the news. I said, excuse me? I said, what are you talking about? She said, I'm calling News 9, I'm calling Channel 5, and I'm calling Channel 4. And you're going to be on the news as the person who kicked a man out onto the street in a hotel.
That'd be kind of cool.
I said, I can live with that. And she said, don't you dare speak to me like that. At this point, this conversation had been going on for about 20 minutes of her just basically screaming at me over the phone because I'm kicking her husband into the cold. I was not. As I mentioned, it was July. Maybe kicking him out of the heat, I understand that one. So I said, ma'am, if you want to just book another room at that other hotel, we'll be more than happy to work with you. Well, and she did it again, 6 times this time. I said, ma'am, I have to get you into a different hotel. I said, there is no other options other than get you into the other hotel. I hope you like being on the news. Click. Phone hangs up. And I said, all right. I can't wait to be on the news. This is going to be exciting. So about 4 hours later, we get a call. And I recognize the number because it said the lady's name on there. So when the phone rang, it said Broomhilda. And I was like, oh, yes. Oh, she called back. I'm so excited.
Helicopter lands.
Yeah,
News helicopter.
Right. I was expecting her to walk through the door with a whole bunch of news crews, and it never happened, by the way. And might I add, it never happened, which is really sad because I really wanted it to. But she calls back, and she says, Well. Well. She only did it twice this time. I hope you know that we're moving our stuff in the morning. I said, oh, your opinion has changed a little bit about us. She said, yep, but we're not paying and don't expect us to pay. They have a 5-month hotel stay bill. It is over $2,000, which is not bad, actually.
For 5 months, yeah.
For 5 months, $2,000 is not horrible.
Did you guys not have a policy for how long people could stay?
No, we don't have a policy. As long as we have the rooms available, they can stay for whenever. I mean,
Really?
but we do have crews that come in all the time, and they'll stay and work for like 4 or 5 months and then move on.
Huh.
But they're really good sales for the hotel because it's a group, a block group of like 36 rooms. So it's a really good deal. And so I'm assuming this guy's here on,
Crack.
work or something.
Yeah.
I mean, I would imagine work. Because he's been there for 5 months. And so I said, so she says she's not paying. I say, ma'am, I'm sorry, you have to pay. That's how the world works. And if you do not pay, we will call the police.
Well,
she starts crying.
Can't you just use the credit card on file?
We could use the credit card on file, and we were going to charge it. And she said, if you dare charge us, I'll go to the police. We're not staying there. No. So she starts crying and tells me that she's going to call the police because we're charging her card for staying at the hotel that they booked. Do you see where this story is heading to?
Yeah.
Maybe you don't, maybe you do. Let's find out. So she starts crying. I'm going to call the police and you guys are going to get arrested for being the worst hotel in the world. I was just thinking in my head, I was like, well, if we get arrested for being the worst hotel in the world, I don't think the charges will stick. I don't think that's an actual charge you can give somebody. So she just starts crying and she's like, you'll see. You'll feel the wrath of Broomhilda, and just click. Phone hangs up. So after my now sitting on about an hour and 20 minutes into a conversation with this lady, totally like combined, we decide we're just going to go ahead and charge the room card, get it over with. Well, I just happened to be working the next day, in the morning. So I get to work the next morning, and I saw her. I don't know how I knew it, but it was her. She came in, 6 teeth to her name.
Good Lord.
6 teeth, maybe. And she came in, and she had her back was arched and she was looking at me with a side, like her head was sideways. Like she had her head turned sideways and she was just walking at me. And she said, are you the stupid manager I talked to on the phone yesterday? I said, well, yep, that was me. And she goes, well. And it was even better in person. Oh my goodness, it was so much better in person. When you hear something over the phone, it's not the same as when someone's standing in front of you going, well. And she like really drew it out this time. I was like, this lady's going for the gold. Like she was going for an Oscar and getting kicked out of a hotel. So she starts just going off. Like just going off. I'm not paying for your services and we're not staying at this hotel anymore. And even if I have to go to the authority, we'll get our money back. And I thought, well, I heard this yesterday and still no police have showed up at our door. So I tell her, all right, ma'am, no problem. I said, if you want to go ahead and check out of the room, then we can and go ahead and send us an invoice when you get a hold of your attorneys or whatever, and just go ahead and we can dispute this whenever you want. She said, "Don't you talk to me like that, boy." I thought, oh no. Oh no. At this point, she was so angry, all 6 of her teeth were rattling. So, she goes off and starts running around the hotel. Just starts running. And I'm like, oh, she can run. And I don't know why she's running. I don't get it.
Was it Naruto style?
No, it wasn't Naruto style, but it was very, like, it wasn't running per se, but she was kind of just, like, jogging, like, in circles.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if this was, like, a defense mechanism or what it was, but then she did it. In the front lobby, we have a side table, and it holds, like, newspapers and stuff like that. She just kicked it. Like, as hard as she possibly could. Broke 2 front legs off of it. So she starts smashing things. Just, like, grabbing flower vases and just smashing them on the ground. Lucky for me, we have a panic button on the underside of the desk.
Uh-huh.
So I just touch it. Because I'm like, you know what? I'm not dealing with this lady running around smashing things. And the whole time she's running around going, "I'm going to tell the news on you. News 9, News 5, News 4. I'm telling them all." So the police get there and she's currently throwing newspapers in the air. So they come up to her and they say, "Ma'am, are you okay?" And she says, "This is the worst hotel I've ever been at." And they said, "Well, that's okay. What seems to be the problem?" And she was like, "We've stayed here for a while." And I'm in the back going, 5 months? They've stayed here for 5 months. And she was like, "And we're not paying because they're mean to us and kicking us out into the cold." So the police officers, they come up to me and they're like, "Okay, what's going on?" And I said, "Well, they've stayed here for 5 months. They have to check out today. We don't have any rooms available. They tried to extend last night, but they can't. It's our policy." And they were like, "Oh, okay." So she proceeds to start throwing newspapers everywhere. Like since she had already been knocking the newspapers in the air, the police walked in right as she was starting to, like, throw the bulk of them, so she stopped then. Well, then behind them, I see, like, just over the cop's shoulder, a newspaper go flying. And they turn around and they say, "Ma'am, we're going to need you to stop that right now." And she says, "You can't tell me what to do." I thought, well, that's a bad thing to tell a police officer when they tell you to do something. So she just starts going ham again. She's throwing couch cushions and all kinds of... She's throwing cups. She knocked over our water because we have a water jug in the front. She just kicked it over. I was like, okay. So they were like, do you want to get her out of here? And I was like, yes, please, if possible. That would be wonderful. She's breaking everything. And so they try to handcuff her. She starts swinging her purse at them. I'm like, that is assaulting an officer. I'm like, at that point, they should just tackle her. That'd be funny. But they never tackled her. They ended up getting her on the ground and in cuffs, and they take her outside, and all of a sudden, I look down the hallway, and room 104 opens. This guy comes out, probably about 6 foot, beard, very clean. Not something you would expect from a guy staying in a hotel for 5 months straight, not leaving. And he comes out and he says, "Yeah, my name is, I'll just call him Broomhilda's husband." He said, "My name is Broomhilda's husband, and I'd like to check out, please." I said, "What? You're who?" And he goes, "I'm Broomhilda's husband. I'd like to check out, please." I said, "Are you okay with that?" And he goes, "Oh, absolutely. That's perfectly fine with me." He was like, I can just go to the one down the street. You guys told me that. I'm losing my mind at this point. This lady had just torn our lobby to shreds. He turns around and with the most like nonchalant voice ever goes, oh, guess my wife was here. He turns to me and goes, she's a drinker.
Oh.
And I went, oh, interesting. He was like, yep, I don't actually work here in Norman. He goes, I work in OKC, but I've been staying at this hotel to get away from her.
Oh my.
Walks into the parking lot, puts both middle fingers in the air at the cop car, and then proceeds to walk down the street to the other hotel. What a hero. He just double bird flipped her off and said, see ya! And just walked down the street with his luggage in his hand. Wow. I don't strive to be that kind of person, but I can admit that he's my hero. He couldn't stand her either. This whole time I've been having to deal with her, he didn't want to deal with her either. What a hero.
What a boss.
Just walks away from his wife tearing up a hotel lobby. Double birds in the air.
Gamer style.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, dang, dude.
But, yeah. Those are the best memories I have from working. Join us next week for another wonderful edition of the Beached Whale Podcast. Next week we will be talking about, well, something fun. Be sure to join us.
Anyways, guys, my name is Nolan.
My name's Nash.
And we'll see you next time.